So, welcome to episode 5 of the Before It Was Cool podcast. I'm your general host, Tom Roberts. I'm here with my special co host this week, Acey Brimshore. Everybody, welcome him. Welcome yourself, Acey.
Hey, it's good to be here and talk some stuff about a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And hopefully everyone's going to be interested in it. Or I will be because I love these topics, and hopefully AC will too. But for now, we're going to play the intro and kick off the show.
Welcome.
Welcome. Welcome. Welcome. Welcome. Welcome.
Welcome to the Before It Was Cool podcast.
Thank you everyone for sticking around through that intro. If you've listened to my other shows, you know for a fact that I don't like my own intro. I don't like my own creations, but that's most artists, I guess. Okay, the first segment we're going to talk about is something that AC has a bit more hands-on experience than me with, and that is professional wrestling.
I guess, man. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Yeah.
Well, I've never actually gotten into a wrestling ring. Like, I have,
Cool.
but I've never gotten in there to wrestle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I did see you once. Get
Yeah,
taken into a wrestling ring, so I was there for that.
yeah. If people haven't, because I've never told the story on this show before, but
Oh, really?
I was actually attending the House of Hardcore in Sydney, the second tour, and AC was at that show, and I told Tommy Dreamer early in the night that my dream was to get in a wrestling ring. And at the end of the night, he told Mick Foley, he told Bubba Ray Dudley, or Bully Ray at the time, and they ended up picking me up from my wheelchair and putting me in the ring with them, which
Yeah.
is pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, that was a really cool night.
Yeah, it was. It was some fantastic matches. I still brag about the Nick Aldis Robbie Eagles match.
That was sensational.
Yeah. Alrighty. So you've got some experience in the wrestling ring, do you?
Yeah. I started wrestling in year 2000, so I started getting trained. And then debuted a few months after that, and yeah, wrestled around for a few years after that. I eventually ended up breaking my collarbone though, so that led me into doing commentating and then being a referee for a while, and then I eventually ended up kind of giving away due to being more focused on music and stuff. But I was wrestling, yeah, 2000, and like it's kind of insane because been I started going to Aussie wrestling shows about 2 years before that, and one of the first shows I ever went to was called AWF Psychotic Slam '99, and that actually had Sabu and Chris Candido. It had Vulcan on it as well, Marty Jannetty, um, TNT, Chucky Chaos, ZZ Hook,
I remember ZZ.
uh, bunch of other guys, bunch of other guys as well, and that really kickstarted my me into the Aussie wrestling scene because I really had no idea that this even really existed because I obviously watching WWF at the time, WCW, and that led me into ECW
Yeah.
from that show, and I did a lot of tape trading as well. So I started meeting a lot of people through tape trading, and that's how I actually started training as well because I'd meet people through there. But I'd already been talking to TNT at the time, and I was pretty young, and I was doing like a website for him, and then that led me onto another company, and I went to do a website for them. But when I turned up to talk to them about the website, they literally threw me in the ring and monkey flipped me, and I landed on the PCYC boxing ring. And then they were like, "So do you want to come and wrestle?" And I said yes. Stupidly, I said yes, and that's how I actually got started. That company was called TWP, Titan Wrestling Promotions, and there's still a few people from that company that are still around now, but not very many.
Is that
So.
Vulcan's wrestling company?
No, this was it was a company. It used to be called it goes way back. So it used to be AWA in Australia, which was the mid '90s. This company. So a lot of people came up through AWA. People like TNT. He was on that kind of thing as well. I believe Mark Mercedes and all that kind of, I think, all went through that as well. At some point, everybody was kind of part of AWA. It was one of the, I wouldn't say one of the more well-known companies, but in Sydney, a lot of people came up through it. They actually, a little bit of trivia, they actually had the old WCW ring from
Yeah.
Australia. And that ring, I don't know who owns it now, but yeah, it was one of the bigger rings in Australia because a lot of companies run, what is it, 16?
Yeah,
And,
and
and
that was a 20 by 20,
I
wasn't
think
it?
it was 20, yeah. So running those ropes were, and I never knew till I got into another ring that really there was much difference. But you're always taking 4 strides, 5 strides to hit the ropes, where other rings you do it in almost 2.5 to 3. So
Yeah. Like, I think it's PWA run a 18 by 18,
okay, yep,
I think. And that's the one that, that was the one that House of Hardcore used, and that's the one that New Japan uses
yep.
whenever they come out.
I've got to say, PWA is doing amazing things, and that kind of reminds me of the early, yeah, the early 2000s, where in Australia, like AWF was doing really, really big things and bringing out people and working with a lot of people, different wrestlers, and PWA doing the exact same thing. But I don't know, it just seems like an even more professional product now.
Yeah.
When I see that, and I've watched some of their shows they put up online, which is a good way to, like, live. Their presentation is unbelievable as well, but what they're doing, even with the commentating, it's very professional, and that's one thing that's sometimes lacked in Australian professional wrestling is the commentating
Yeah.
aspect of it. It's hard to find good commentators that actually know what they're talking about,
Yeah.
and from what I've seen online, that they've got it, they've nailed it.
One of the commentators was a former radio DJ, like a show
Okay.
host, and he's just a big fan of wrestling. So he said, "Hey, look, I don't know the technical holds, but I can come on as your color commentator." And
Yep.
they said, "Yeah, sure, come on, we'll see how you are." And he's been their commentator for like 5 years now.
Well, it works.
Yeah.
I didn't actually know that, by the way. So that yeah, that explains a lot.
And like they they've got Robbie Eagles. Obviously, he's like the standard bearer for. I'm a huge Robbie Eagles fan.
Yep.
He's like the standard bearer for Australian pro wrestling at the moment, like internationally.
Yep.
And like recently they've just signed. They've just sent Maddie Wahlberg and I can never remember her last name, Steph something, over to WWE. Like they've just signed performance center contracts.
Yeah, I've got to admit the Aussies now are really getting noticed, and they've got a pathway to actually get over there now. And that was
Yeah.
something that going back to, like, when I started, there was a handful of people that had been overseas.
Yeah.
And a handful that had wrestled in major, like, so Mark Mercedes, like, he was on WCW,
Yeah.
trained by the Melancos and stuff. There was a few more. Why has it just escaped me? I remember TNT. He went overseas and learned some stuff in Mexico, the USA as well. And what was good is they'll bring them stuff, but nobody seemed to be able to stay over there
Yeah.
and get into any major promotion. And if they did, they were only dropping by. And what's been really good recently is seeing people show up on NXT, AEW. The fact that we're now we've had now, like, actual champions holding titles.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable. This is not Nathan Jones going over and doing absolutely nothing and being a total waste of time.
And doing a run in spot at WrestleMania because he wasn't good enough.
That's I thought that was ridiculous. I remember I paid money what was it? It was Aussie Wrestling Super Show number whatever 3, and he didn't even show up.
Yeah.
And like I've been around the wrestling scene, not just wrestling, but being a part of it, being a fan, and that's what I am. I'm a fan. Number one, I'm a fan, and now once again seeing the talent now, Bronson Reed. So yeah,
Yeah.
what was the pay-per-view? It was last month, whatever, and it was the Jewel. So take
Stand and
over.
deliver.
That's it. Yeah.
Take over, stand and deliver.
That was it. And seeing just both those nights and watching
next week he's fighting for the US title against Johnny Gargano.
He's doing major things. And what has been good is actually seeing these talents homegrown and then moving over there. And so I know there's been Australian talent that has moved to America. They've never wrestled in Australia at all. Yeah. But they've moved over. They've moved over to America. They've got trained. But it's really good seeing the talent, the guys and the girls getting trained locally and then going overseas. So we've seen them. We've paid our $5-10 to watch them at a show.
Yeah.
And we've seen the growth, being able to make it to. It is the big time. They're like WWE, AEW, Impact. These are the big companies.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now, Ring of Honor as well. I forget Ring of Honor. But these are the big companies, and we've right now as well because of the internet. And this is something in my tape trading days we never had. I'd have to really go out my way to get tapes and different things and find things, and it was exciting. But now I can log onto the internet, type in a company, and I have access to wrestling straight away, which we've never had that before.
I came in right at the end of the tape trading era, and I've got a cabinet in my garage from top to bottom just full of tapes. And yeah, like you said, it's so much easier now. Like finding out about Bronson Reed when he was still Jonah Rock, for example, or finding out about when he was still Elliot Sexton. I can never remember his WWE name.
Yeah, no, I can't either.
and meeting them at shows and I told this on an episode a few weeks ago, having Jonah Rock say to me, WWE is a pipe dream, I'll never make it there. Yeah. Well, he didn't say I'll never make it there. He said, I don't think I'll go there.
Yep.
And and that was only like 3 years ago or 2 years ago, whatever it was.
Insane.
At the G3 match between him, Adam Brooks, and Robbie Eagles. And then now he's fighting for the title in the main event on NXT.
Yeah, it's insane to think about that.
Yeah, and then you've got like Slex and Adam Brooks who are about to rip it up in Ring of Honor. And you've got Robbie Eagles who's already ripping it up in New Japan, who I think at some point is going to compete for the IWGP title against what's his name?
Ospreay. Yeah, definitely. And I've seen is it twice? Maybe they're 3 times. Twice. I've seen them at least twice, and they tear the house down every time. So that's a no-brainer. That kind of has to happen, right?
yeah, exactly. And like they've got that dynamic where they haven't had a bad match against each other. They just know what each other's going to do.
Yeah, the chemistry, it's unbelievable. And that's what's good. It is good to being able, where we've seen 2 guys from 2 opposite sides of the world come together, and they're putting on the perfect match.
Yeah. Like, did you go to the second New Japan show?
No, I didn't. No.
Or even the first?
Yeah, no, I went to the first.
Olympic Park, and the second one was at the Roundhouse in Sydney, at the UNSW Roundhouse. But
to be completely honest, the first one was unbelievable, and all the talent on the show was really cool. I did watch the second one.
Yeah, they showed Melbourne on Fight TV, and then Sydney was just for the live crowd.
Okay, because I did watch something, and they had the New Japan ring there, or it looked like at this time.
Yeah, it was the PWA ring dressed up to look like New Japan ring.
Yeah, because that was the first thing I remember noticing, but the main reason, honestly, the first show, big fan of like the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and stuff like that. And that's obviously the reason we went to the first one.
Yeah.
And when they weren't on the second one, that obviously was me. That was that's the reason why I didn't go.
Yeah. Like the
So
second one had Tanahashi,
yep.
which was kind of cool. I got to meet him, and he is can't speak a word of English, but he's a really nice guy. I think he could have been swearing at me under his breath, and I wouldn't have known.
You wouldn't even know.
But he's a very pretty man. Let's put it that way as well. But that the turn at the end where Robbie Eagles left the Bullet Club to join
Yes.
Chaos was fucking awesome.
Yes. See, I did definitely see this. Yeah.
Yeah, that bit of footage made it on all the like Cultaholic, World Culture, all that stuff.
Okay.
But the whole show, I'm pretty sure New Japan World might have shown it, but Fight didn't.
Okay. See, I was on I had New Japan World up until what's their big show? Wrestle Kingdom?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just after that I got rid of New Japan World.
This year?
Yeah, it would have been must have been this year.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, well, I think it was this year. Once again, it's kind of hard. The pandemic's kind of messed up things with a lot of the people that I enjoy watching weren't able to be,
at the shows.
It's hindered a lot of wrestling. So yeah, so I got rid of it. When everything starts back up, I probably will just buy it again. But then I've got subscriptions for everything. This is a problem.
Yeah. So I find myself forgetting that I've got the subscription. And funnily enough, especially to WWE, I forget that I got the subscription. And I forget that a pay-per-view just happened or is happening or whatever.
I only remember Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. That's it for me. Like that's my two favorites. I love Royal Rumbles. That's the Rumble is my favorite. Doesn't matter what wrestling show I'm at. If there's a Rumble, I'm there. That's my favorite match of all time. Yeah, not like a battle royal, but like a Rumble where like people come out staggered.
Yeah,
that's my favorite.
Almost like Gauntlet.
Yeah.
My all-time favorite pay-per-view is the Survivor Series. That's because it adds a special place in my heart. The 2002 Survivor Series, probably in my book the best of them all, but that's up for debate with some people. But that was the very first pay-per-view I bought live. I tape traded, but I had never bought one live. So I finally got that one. And that was the Elimination Chamber and the SmackDown 6 tag team match. That was fucking awesome. And it was right at the start of the Reign of Terror.
Okay. See, and there's another thing with I've got like a lot of tapes and stuff, but I also got a lot of stuff on hard drive as well. I ended up getting all of Nitro and all of Raw. Up till with Raw, I got up to 2006. The main reason I got them on hard drive is because some of the stuff on the network they've changed some things.
Yeah.
So it is cool to have kind of a hard copy, and they're not perfect. Like some of the episodes are actually kind of cool when you're watching Nitro. Somebody who's taped it is actually flicking between Raw and Nitro, so you'll be watching it, and you'll be watching, I don't know, Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hulk Hogan versus, I don't know, Diamond Dallas Page, and they switch and you're seeing like Mankind and The Rock, and you go, what just happened? So it's kind of cool to see what was happening live at the time, because obviously living in Australia, we had Nitro was, it's only a few days delayed, but Raw was a little bit more. So, but it didn't matter. We didn't have it on the same day, so we didn't have to sit there and flick. And I was talking to one of my friends about this. That we were so lucky that we didn't need to channel hop. We got best of both worlds. And it's when people talk about, the AEW, NXT war, whatever they're trying to say it is. I'm like, there is so much wrestling now. It doesn't matter. Like, enjoy it. Because it's such a good time for wrestling that once again, you can log on to YouTube and there's so much free wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. And because NXT changed nights and then Impact changed nights, it's now wrestling every single day of the week. from the big
There,
companies.
there is no war. Just if you like one company, like one company. If you like two companies, if you like all companies, like all companies. This is the thing. I with tape trading, I got to learn about so many different companies, and also got to learn about people before they became big, and that was really cool because I used to get, I think it was Ohio Valley Wrestling. I used to get that every 2 weeks, and there
Yeah,
would be tapes full of, and people like Batista, what was it, Eugene, so Nick Dinsmore, Randy Orton as well. All these guys, I got to watch them wrestle like in front of no one in this Ohio Valley Wrestling kind of the setup they had, which is a studio setup. But
yeah,
you got to see like character development. You got to see some really cool things before they actually hit the big time. And it's not the same as what NXT is now, because NXT, it's way more polished.
yeah.
It really is. It's way more polished, and it was kind of cool seeing them all at grassroots level. And then they'd also bring people from the main roster in just to do those shows. So yeah, I don't know. I just keep thinking about tape trading. It's been such a long time that I've even thought about all these other things that I have that I just don't watch anymore. But also tape trading used to, even though you can get it for free, I still one of the I remember paying $40 for a copy of Beyond the Mat, which was one of those bootleg copies.
Yeah.
So you could hardly even see what was going on. But I remember that was 99, so I can't even remember what age I would have been then. But I just remember watching that and being like, "This is the greatest thing ever."
I
And
rem-
I still love that documentary.
I remember begging my parents for, I think it was would have been like $20. It wasn't much, and well, for them it was because we weren't exactly rich growing up. But
Yep.
In like mid 2000, for this show that my friends were talking about, and I ended up getting it. It was called ACW Anarchy Rules 99.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I watched it and I had no idea what I was watching because at the time I was only a WWF fan. I
Yep.
knew the WWF. I knew Mankind Flew Off the Soul, and that was the most hardcore thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the pay per view. I think it was that pay per view where Taz lost the belt to what's his name? Michael Awesome. And I had no idea who Masato Tanaka or Michael Awesome or Taz were, so it meant nothing to me. And then later on, I learned that that was a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that was my first foray into ECW, but I was hooked from like the opening match, just seeing how raw it was and seeing how visceral that crowd was. It was just awesome to me.
Yeah. That ECW, I still have fond memories with my friends as well. I'd get new tapes and they'd all come over and watch ECW because once again, it was so different to WCW and WWF. It was completely different, and I still sometimes I don't know why I was like gravitated towards it. It was so cool. I did love deathmatch wrestling and garbage wrestling or whatever. I still do. It's something that I still love watching, but ECW, it wasn't exactly that. Like ECW then got me into like Japanese deathmatch wrestling.
Yeah.
But some of the I've got matches where it's a Japanese bathhouse death match where people are like bathing and they're just fighting in and out. It makes absolutely no sense. And there's like crocodile death matches and
my favorite one is the Piranha death match.
Piranha death match, yes.
I finally got to watch it a few months ago, and my god, is it brutal! He traps him in a fucking piranha tank. No wonder it's never happened again. Like, goddamn.
But that's it. Some of that stuff I love so much. And but ECW had a really good balance of I don't know, like really good wrestlers, but the stuff it almost, I don't know, bad to say it was more real, but it just had this vibe about it where it felt like they were really killing each other every time they were doing things. And then when I started getting more into Japanese wrestling and you started seeing the way they were hitting each other, and I at that time as well, I was getting a lot of the Japanese female tapes.
Yeah.
And they would kick the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
And I honestly, you can put like I can't even what the shows are, but you can put any of the female wrestling, the Japanese wrestling in the mid '90s and the late '90s up against any other and they were tougher than the men. 100%. You watch it, and they were kicking the literal shit out of each other.
Yeah, it was brutal, and like in the late '90s, that's when Suzuki and a few others were coming up, but that was still. Yeah, I agree with you. That was still way more brutal.
Yeah,
Even though like Noki was like obsessed with the mixed straight MMA and
Yep.
the professional wrestling world, the females were still hitting harder.
Yeah, it was insane. Like I still watch these tapes and go, how to me, how is this not more popular in the States? But it's taken a long time for that to even get to where it is now. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's like what the way the lady, what is it, the women's wrestling is now. They are like they're main eventing, and it's pretty like their wrestling is amazing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like yeah, the late '90s where it just women's wrestling it was nothing really. Like it's bad to say, but to me, it just didn't interest me. It was all about what was it, the King, and he was like puppies and all this kind of stuff. And
Exactly.
and I, you know what, I still watching Raw and Raw is War and all this stuff and the King and the puppies and everything. It was amazing. Like that's what I got brought up on. I thought that whole the way he was, it was very exciting, and so was Raw is War and being a little bit more. I don't know, everybody like suck it and I still remember like everybody's crotch chopping, chopping their crotches, and man, like it was an amazing time, and things obviously did have to change, and
Yeah.
they slowly have, and like we'll always have the Attitude Era, and that was cool. And what we have now, what I think is happening now is like where wrestling was, it was bigger guys. It was always bigger guys and kind of muscle hasn't. We're getting way more athletic, and even the bigger guys are way more athletic. And Bronson Reed, Jonah Rock, like he's one of those guys.
Yeah.
I remember I saw. Oh, yeah, it was Jonah Rock versus Brian Cage, World Series Wrestling in Sydney, I think it was.
Yeah.
And those two guys, both massive dudes, and they were killing it. And I still can't believe Brian Cage can just backflip like it's nothing. But yeah, but wrestling has become way more athletic, and guys like Robbie Eagles versus Will Ospreay, and how you said that in the future we might see them go for the title. If you had told me 2 years ago that Ospreay would be the champion right now,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have agreed with you at all.
Yeah. The
I'll
shit.
say it would never happen. And
When you beat Coda for the belt, even then I was like, why? Why'd you put it on him? Why'd you take it off Coda? Right now, when the Forbidden Door is open and Kenny Omega is the world champion on the other side of that door, why the fuck would you take the belt off Coda?
Yeah.
Like, that's just, yeah. They've obviously got other plans in mind. For me, I believe it's going to be Okada will take the belt off Ospreay. Then Okada will go over to America. And it'll be him versus Omega at some point.
Yep. That stuff's cool. Wrestling is cool again. This is one thing I've kind of not touched on, but when I started wrestling, and then I wrestled for a bit and was a fan or whatever. And then when I got into like being in a band, there's a gap there where I stopped going to live shows, and there was a gap as well where I stopped watching wrestling for a while. And I have friends that kind of did the same, where we didn't watch wrestling all the time. You kept up to date with the internet, like you'd read the synopsis of the show or you'd watch highlights, because that's what it became to. And still, I don't watch Raw anymore. I cannot tell you. No, the last time I watched Raw was one of their like Raw anniversary shows, where it was the last time the Big Show was on it.
Yeah.
That was the last show I watched because I watch when they do the retro shows or they do the callbacks. I watch those shows because it's nostalgia, and I'm a huge nostalgia fan.
Yeah.
So when those kind of things happen, I'm all about that. That's cool. Like SmackDown the other week, kind of the big fist back, that kind of thing. I love that kind of stuff. But yeah, I haven't watched Raw. I do have a subscription to AEW, so I watch that every week. I only watch. I didn't watch it last week, so I still miss it from time to time.
Yeah.
But it was 2018 whenever the first House of Hardcore tour was with the Young Bucks.
2017.
2017. So that show was the first wrestling show I had been to since the Hulkamania tour, whenever that was.
Wow, that was ages ago.
Yeah, so
are you
that
talking
was,
about
that
the
was,
Hulkamania tour, the one WWE did, and then they cancelled Hulk Hogan?
No, not that. No, the Hulkamania tour with Ric Flair
and Umaga.
Umaga, yeah, that's right.
That was
yeah.
like 09 or 08. That was
there you go.
ages
That was
ago.
the last wrestling show I went to.
Jesus Christ.
And because wrestling for me, there was this. I don't know. Everybody that was on the show, it seemed was a bit stale. I did watch Raw every now and again, or I was reading up, and nothing really appealed to me. I cannot tell you at that time, between those periods till about 2017, 2016, I started kind of going, I'm hearing some cool things. I remember I started watching Ring of Honor in about 2016. I saw, and I can't remember what triggered me to watch it, but from memory, a lot of them that were on TNA had started and they'd moved to Ring of Honor, I think.
Yeah.
And that's maybe like your Jay Lethals and Christopher Daniels.
Well,
Darian.
Christopher Daniels and Kazarian started in Ring of Honor, and then they moved to TNA, then they moved back to Ring of Honor.
I could. Yeah. I'm just 1 second. Yes. Okay. Right at the start. Yes.
Yeah.
Because I had Ring of Honor right from the start. I still have, once again, all my tapes. So I also, random thing, and because whatever, and in Beyond the Mat, if you actually watch closely, when the two guys are trying out for WWE, Christopher Daniels is actually in the background because he's wrestling on that Raw that night. Just random fact. Fucking every time I see it, I'm like, hey, there's CD. Fallen Angel. So
yeah.
But yeah, I got out of wrestling for such a long period of time. And that Hulkamania show was awesome because I went there with my friend, my brother, my dad, and it was just one of these things, like, had all the guys that I'd grown up watching and things like that. So that was a really cool show, regardless of the wrestling. The wrestling was trash. But just seeing everybody there in the one building and how it was actually quite packed.
Yeah.
So I got out, and then it was the House of Hardcore tour. I saw that pop up, and it was only because Billy Gunn and Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah.
And that's all I really, really cared about. I went, oh yeah, we'll go for this. And I knew who the Young Bucks were because I remember seeing them in TNA years ago.
Generation Me?
That's them, yep. Yeah. And that's how I remember them. So this is where it's weird. Like, I went, hey, that's those young dudes that looked like the Hardy Boys in TNA. Like, that's how my memory. So that's years ago. And then I'm going to a show to see them. And then when I see them, we're sitting back going, what these guys are real. Wow, they're lying for their autographs. So like, what the hell's going on? And I was still a bit shocked. And even a friend of mine went, he's sitting to me going, who are these Young Bucks? Who are they? To a year later, yeah, like they pretty much, they'd become the biggest thing,
yeah,
in the world. But it was that House of Hardcore show that brought me back.
Yeah, and it's funny to say the first House of Hardcore show, I think, had more modern stars, if you know what I mean. The second House of Hardcore had more nostalgic stars outside of your Nick Aldis, your Lance Archers, and a few others. But
Yep.
I had like Bar Ray Dudley, I had Mick Foley, Swoggle, Tommy Dreamer, Al Snow, Billy Gunn, all them on it. And it was more of a nostalgia thing for me to go to that show. Like
I agree. I agree. It did, but that's one thing. That's what I loved about it.
yeah, like for me, Mick Foley's always gonna be my favorite, and before
Yep.
even that happened, he was my favorite. I put him up there with my top 5 world champions of all time, even though he was a transitional champion like twice out of the 3 times he held it. But yeah, I still think he's one of the greatest performers, sports entertainers of all time, as the Vince McMahon would order his commentators to say. But like, because like he said, he wasn't a professional wrestler. He was just a guy that could act well in a car crash.
Mick Foley is one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah.
I have like a handful, and like my favorites of all time. Mick Foley, HBK. Then Hulk Hogan has to go in there because I've always loved Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Sabu as well.
Yeah.
And Sabu, I don't know. It's Sabu is Sabu, and even his online presence is horrible. But that guy, first time I ever seen him, 99 at the Whitlam Centre in Liverpool on the AWF show, I was like, who is this guy? This guy is unbelievable. And then that show, it was kind of small show anyway. He was really, we were all really close. So yeah, you got to see all the scars and shit. And then over the years, I think out of any international wrestler, I've seen Sabu more than anyone.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So I don't even trying to think, but yeah, Mick Foley. And Mick Foley is, he must, I would say he's my number one guy.
Yeah. I would say Mick's my number one guy as far as in-ring goes. Or not in-ring, as far as personality and persona and everything goes. Actually, just overall, he's my number one guy.
That's it for me. That's if I want to watch it, it's Mick Foley. So
yeah, if I want to introduce someone to wrestling, I show them a Mick Foley match. It might not be one of his C4 barbed wire matches from Japan, or his cell drop, or his last man standing match from the Royal Rumble, but against The Rock. But it'll be one of his matches, no doubt, or even one of his promos.
Mick. He's just all round. He's just good.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing. Okay, his wrestling might not be the best. Like this might not be the best. That doesn't matter. He's so entertaining.
Yeah.
And I just when he came out at House of Hardcore and he did his the theme music played and he actually came out, the house erupted.
Yeah.
Like the place erupted, and I've got footage of it when he comes out, and I still watch that back, and I'm like, this is unbelievable. I don't even know how many people were there. But everybody, the minute his music hit, it was like 30,000 strong. It didn't matter. It was unreal.
And he's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Him, Lance Archer, and Tommy Dreamer are the 3 nicest men I've ever met.
Oh, that's awesome.
As far as the wrestling industry goes. It's funny because Lance Archer plays such a good arsehole.
Yeah. He's a guy that what was it? So I started watching New Japan, and when I seen him, I was like, oh, this guy is pretty cool. And a mate of mine went, oh yeah, he's been around and done this, and I had no idea. And because I stopped watching it for a period of time, him starting, was it Vance Archer, whatever his name was. I went back and I checked him out, and I'm like, this guy is amazing.
Yeah.
And he's gonna do amazing things. He's definitely gonna do amazing things.
A bit of trivia, he actually had Chris Candido's very last match.
Really?
It was Chris Candido's opponent before Chris died in that tragic accident. But
I did not know that, yeah.
Who would you rank as your top 5 like champions of all time?
Yeah. See, that's a hard one. Mm. See what? Yeah. I see. Oh, ooh. It's hard. See, world champion. I'll give you. So, I've always liked RVD as the television champion.
Yeah,
Um, I always thought that when he held that belt, like it just worked for him.
yeah,
Um, I also champions of all time, HBK.
yeah,
And when I see, and I've yeah, HBK would definitely be up there because I've got such strong like fond memories of that. Hulk Hogan was another one.
yeah.
Um, who other world champions? Oh, that is such a hard question. It is such a hard question
Yeah,
because I'm trying to think about because yeah, because it's more for me like I've never the belts sometimes just because you were world champion. I sometimes like the guy holding the TV championship
yeah.
or the
Or
intercontinental, like actually intercontinental. Once again, that like I loved how HBK like was an intercontinental champion and then became the world champion, WWF champion. Um, yeah, it's hard to get a top five, but what do we got? We got I think HBK was an awesome champion. Um, did RVD actually hold the world championship? He did at
he
some point. He
did
did.
in '06. He held the
When he
WWE,
beat
and then
Cena.
he converted it to the ECW world title.
Yeah.
Then when he left the company, he held the TNA world title.
Ah.
He
Okay.
was the
Well,
one that beat AJ Styles.
well, you know what? He's on my list. He just made the list. That is awesome. um, I think and this is a more recent one. I think Kenny Omega.
Yeah,
Um, and this goes for like the IWGP and the AEW was cool, but I thought what he was in New Japan was just amazing. The presence that he had. A little bit, everything's a bit different now. I thought he was doing really well in Japan and how that was all going.
yeah.
Um, and I know I need one more. I need to pick someone else. Who else was cool? I see. I would say Mick Foley, but I don't know. I never thought Mick Foley needed a belt, even though he's probably one of those guys that when he got the belt, it probably meant more to him than a lot of other people.
And his win was one of those iconic wins. It's still replayed to this day.
Yeah. I'll put Mick Foley in there because I think that him getting the belt, it meant a lot to him. Just from where he'd come from and what he wanted to be, which he achieved, which is unbelievable. Because
Yeah.
when he's a guy that, in a way, you would never put money on him at the start to win the race, and
Exactly.
and he did it.
And he thought he was gonna go nowhere as well. Like if
Yeah,
you watch his DVDs or read his books, he just thought, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna give this a go," but no one's gonna hire an overweight guy from New Jersey.
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
And he ended
but
up
he
being
made
one of the biggest names in history.
that's true, and you can't say that. And I'm looking around my computer room that I'm in, and I'm I have three, four, five, six Mick Foley, seven Mick Foley figures, key rings, bloody plushies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've got four Mick Foley figures and a Mr. Socko
yes,
hanging up
yes.
in my room. I framed him and everything.
Actually, one thing I did go to from Mick was doing his what was it called? His like comedy, was it comedy tour? No,
Oh, the
the
20 Years of Hell tour.
that thing. Yeah, I went to
Were
that, and
you at that too?
yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was like a
Uh,
week after the House of Hardcore.
that's it. Yeah, we went to that. So there's been so much wrestling. That's what I said at the start of this. There's been so much happening that wrestling's become fun again.
Yeah,
And watching Mick Foley for that hour, whatever he did, and just the way he talks, and you can't not listen to him.
yeah,
Like he, he's such a good storyteller. And in a way, that's probably what made him in wrestling as well, because wrestling's all about telling a story.
yeah, exactly.
And he's an amazing storyteller. Another good thing I went to, Eric Bischoff, he did his.
Yeah, I went to that as well. And I
Yeah.
went to the The Bruce Pritchard one, and that will
I didn't go to Bruce Pritchard. And
he
I keep getting told I should have went to it.
his
But
was funny from start to finish. Like you
yeah,
didn't break for laughter at all. It was fucking awesome. And Bischoff was awesome as well. And I can't wait for what was the one that was announced but got cancelled? Scott Hall.
was it Scott Hall? Was it?
He was gonna come out doing a spoken word tour.
Oh man,
It got cancelled.
Probably COVID.
Yeah. It was supposed to happen midway through last year.
Yeah, that would have been something I would have been interested in as well.
Yeah. Like, my view on the top 5 world champions would be, like, because you got to come at it, in my book, in separate ways. Like, as far as, like, doing stuff for the business, you can't really go beyond Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair.
I don't disagree with that at all, yeah.
But as far as, like, in-ring stuff, you can't really include Hulk Hogan in that or John Cena, because like, they were limited back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
John Cena now is like much better than he was 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird. That dude's a freak. But but like, as far as like my personal top 5 picks, I would obviously number 1 have to go Foley. Like I said, he was only a transitional champion, but my God, his first win was iconic, and his second win was iconic. His third win is just because Stone Cold didn't like Triple H. And then, like, number 2, I would have gone Shawn Michaels, except for the fact that when he did hold the belts, he was an absolute prick.
Yeah, that's what I liked about him.
Like, he did hold it in 2002 at my favorite ever pay-per-view. He won it, but he lost it a month later. And for the 8-year stretch that he was active, he never held another singles title.
Oh.
Like, he held the tag titles, I think, 4 times in that period, but he never held another singles title. He always chased. I got in this conversation with someone a few weeks ago that there are some guys that just are so good at chasing their belt. Like, there are some guys that are so good at holding it, like Drew McIntyre, surprisingly good at holding that belt. Bobby Lashley, surprisingly good at holding that belt. Shawn Michaels, so good at chasing.
When you mentioned Drew McIntyre, not that I'd put him in any top world champions yet.
Oh yeah, he's not in my top 5. I just mean that he's good at holding.
No. What
belt.
I mean is, I'm saying, I think if you talk to me in 10 years' time, I think Drew McIntyre could possibly be in that top 5.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just when you mentioned him, I'm like, he is one guy that I remember watching a documentary about him in ICW, or like, so he'd just been let go from WWE, and then he came back to Scotland. And there's a few documentaries out there about ICW and how they brought Drew Galloway back in, and then to see when they gave him the belt last year, was it over Goldberg? Am I wrong?
No, that was Braun Strowman. It was over Brock Lesnar.
Brock Lesnar, yeah. Cool, that was right. When he had the belt, I was like, "This is awesome," and I don't know. I was a bit disappointed to see him not win it at WrestleMania this year. But I don't know.
I think putting the belt on him would have. They were between a rock and a hard place. In one case, you got Drew McIntyre, who's a great champion for the company at the moment in this truly unprecedented time, and then on the other hand, you've got Bobby Lashley, who's a great champion in this truly unprecedented time, and they've been waiting literally decades to put that belt on him, and when they finally did it, taking it off him this soon might have been the mistake. You know what I mean?
No, I totally get you. It's hard. I'm not the one in there writing stuff, but I just didn't want to cut you off. But when you mentioned Drew McIntyre. Then that just popped in my head, and I was like, I think in 10 years' time we're going to be looking back, and he is going to be one of those guys. Could be
Yeah.
completely wrong. He could get let go next week. Who knows?
But was that number 2? I would have to go Ric Flair, just because of what he did in the 90s and the 80s, and
Yep.
like he was so good. Number 3, like you said before, I grew up in the Hulkamania era. It has to be Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
I grew up in the Hulkamania era, and I was one of the ones devastated when he turned heel in '96, and then I became a fan of the NWO and everything
Yes.
they were doing.
Yes.
Number 4, even though he wasn't the greatest in ring, but he did so much for the industry that can still be felt to this day, is Steve Austin.
Yeah, he was cool.
And like the late 90s, I don't remember him not holding the belt. Like, if it wasn't The Rock, it was him, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And like, for me, his attitude was just what made WWE win the Monday Night War.
Yep.
It was just so cool. And number 5 would have to be Chris Jericho.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Why do you got him in there?
Like, his last run with AEW, he did so much for that, like, literally burgeoning company. Like, It was just so good. And then he's changed up his character so many times. When he won the world title back in 2008, I think it was, against in the ladder match with Shawn Michaels, that character was so good. And the fact that he's never won the world title as a face, but he can do the face heel dynamic so well.
Yeah.
And I've always loved his stuff, whether he's a heel, whether he's like a coward, whether he's the ultimate evil dude, like his 08 character, whether he's the little bit of the bubbly inner circle heel that he is now.
Yeah.
Or he's a face now, I think, because of their feud with Faces.
I noticed that. Everything's changed. That's cool. That's what happens. That's fine.
Well, I suppose against MJF, there is no way you could really be the heel against MJF.
MJF is just the ultimate.
Yeah.
When I'd never really seen that. Actually, no, that's a lie. I saw him watching random wrestling, and what was it? I can't remember the company's name. But anyway, it was before AEW's. I can't remember where it was. Anyway, I watched
MLW.
Might have been,
because that's where he was before AEW.
Yes, I think it was MLW, because they do free shows on YouTube.
Yeah, or they used to. They're signed to Vice, like literally 3 days ago.
I did see something, because anyway, on my Facebook, I think it was, or whatever, Twitter, I saw a post, and they posted an old show.
Yeah.
And it had like Christopher Daniels versus whatever, and it had was it Umaga? And yeah. Anyway, they had some stuff, and I went, I forgot they were around like ages ago.
Yeah. They, on a side note, they are the only company that truly handled the lockdown the best. They have a faction, and I can't remember the name of the faction in their company, that took over the MLW show and said, we're going to, and this before it kind of all fit into place. This is before COVID happened. They said, if we take over, we're going to cancel MLW. And then when Court Bauer heard that the virus is probably going to lock them all down, he let the faction take over MLW and shut the show down.
Smart. There you go. That's very good.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I'm gonna have to look into that stuff. That's cool.
Yeah, cause it's Court Bauer. Like, he was the head writer of Raw during the Ruthless Aggression era.
Yep.
And like, for me, he's a genius.
Yeah, the stuff I've seen at MLW, and like I said, I've talked a bit about like how cool YouTube is, and you type something and everything comes up. They had a show. I can't remember what it was called. It was like some kind of Royal Rumble thing, whatever they called it, Battle Riot, maybe they called it.
Yeah.
And just all the wrestlers that were coming into it, because I had this resurgence and I started really checking everything out again, like I was back in my tape trading days, where I would sit there and I'd be like, all right, cool. Oh, so Stevie Richards actually, when he's wrestling in ECW, he also wrestles these little indie promotions. I got to find these little indie promotions. That's how deep, and the internet wasn't as good as it was then as it is now.
Yeah.
So trying to find certain things, it was weird, and I don't know how I was able to find out as much stuff. But yeah, the MLW stuff did impress me, and I didn't mention before, but they are definitely another one of the top companies.
Yeah. As far as indie promotion goes, yeah, like them and a few other, and one of the promotions that is fast coming back is NWA.
Yes. See the NWA. I don't know. It reminds me of 1986 and my tapes and watching like the studio environment, which I hated then. I don't particularly like it now either.
Yeah.
But the NWA pay-per-view, where like they actually kind of had music and they came out, I went, okay, because I like entrances with music, but every time I watch the Power, I think it's Power, whatever it is,
Yeah.
yeah, it's missing that vibe. But that's what they're going for, and they're going for wrestling, and I don't know, it still hasn't grown on me yet.
It's getting better. The in-ring stuff is like better than most companies. It's their presentation that needs a bit of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still hasn't got me, and I've tried. I really have. Like, I didn't just go, I'm not going to watch it. I tried. And then when Marty Scurll rocked up, see, this is a problem that's been for the last year. All like the indie promotions, all the smaller, have had to kind of stop doing what they were doing. And we've only been stuck with WWE and AEW. An Impact? Yeah, an Impact as well.
Yeah, Impact.
A lot.
Ring of Honor is still going.
Are they still? See,
Yeah,
I
they're
haven't
still
seen-
producing weekly shows.
Okay, all right.
Just
So
in
I've
front
missed
of
that.
absolutely no one. Like,
Yeah.
no digital screens or anything. It's just them and the ring, and that's it. It's kind of, you see the floors in Ring of Honor that were hidden by the rest of it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah.
I didn't. I didn't even know that. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't even know they were doing that. That's disappointing. But hopefully everything starts changing. It will. So things will start changing, and over the next year or so, everything will get back to whatever the new normal will be. So
Yeah. Okay, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're here with me and my special co-host for this episode, Acey Brimshore.
hey,
In this segment, we're going to be talking about bands because that's the other half of both of our lives, pretty much. I spent since I was about 14 in the music industry, doing different things, playing in bands, organizing gigs, all that stuff. Acey spent a very long time in the music industry with a band that I quite enjoy, actually, that I've tried to book a few times.
yeah.
The closest one I ever came to was a few years ago, and they had to pull out because of issues, and then I restructured the show. But why don't you tell us a bit about your experiences and your band?
Yeah. So I know I've been playing music so after, like, when I got out of wrestling, kind of what happened with that was I started in bands while I was kind of not training all the time. So that was, kind of young at that point, and always done stuff with friends and different things. So over the years, I've been in heaps of bands. But the last one, the latest one, we'll say, who knows what I'll do next, was not another sequel, just another prequel, NASJAP. And that kind of came out of, so I was in a whole bunch of bands, but I was in a band when I was probably maybe 18, 19, called Thoughts of Yesterday, and we were we were trying to be, I don't know, Atreyu. We were trying to be, I don't know, Atreyu. So, um, yeah, we were trying to stick around that emo screamo-y kind of hardcore, and there's going to be so many genre terms I'm going to use. Because I don't know in the bands, I don't know what we were. But Thoughts of Yesterday, we had a bunch of guys and we just started. That was our first real. I was in bands before that, but that was our first time actually playing consistent shows, getting booked, and not playing people's kind of parties or backyards, which is where you normally start.
Yeah.
You kind of go, hey, they're like, you're growing up and everybody's like, oh, I've got my like 16th, so can your band play? And we're like, oh yeah, but we're gonna need at least one case of beer, like so that would you'd play for a case of beer or like things like that. And then so this is the first, I guess, or second real band where you were actually getting paid $20 to play a show or whatever it was. I don't know. You get $1 a head or whatever the door fee is and stuff like that, or you sell your tickets to your friends and all that.
Yeah.
So Thoughts of Yesterday started, and then we went for a year or so. And that band was doing extremely well. And the problem that happened with that band is, so when we got big, say big, which is not big, but when we started getting somewhere, and we started getting offered all these really cool shows, the people in the band wanted to do other things. So we split up. One of them went off and they joined. I'm going to mess up all the band names and whatever, but he went to a band. It might be called Irrelevant or called something else. The other one went somewhere else, and they all started doing. Their bands were more similar to like Parkway Drive, and I Killed the Prom Queen and that kind of stuff. So they actually started playing, like their bands would play with those bands.
So like that was big at that time as well, that style of music.
Yeah, but those bands that I mentioned weren't.
Okay.
Like, sorry, they were still playing PCYCs. They were still playing clubs that only hold 200 people.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're at that point. But they're the ones that would headline and sell out the 200. Yeah. So this is, I can't remember what time period that was, but that's when this happened. So, so Parkway Prom Queen, things like that. That they would go off and play those style of shows, and then I eventually end up joining another band, what we called after that, called Vendetta Symphony, and we were more of like a traditional metalcore, but what we did is we mixed in symphonic sounds. And this band, this Vendetta Symphony, this is a band every band I've ever been in somehow still ends up, the albums end up on YouTube somewhere where somebody randomly has just posted. I don't know where the hell they got the albums from because we sold like none of them. And they always come from overseas, like European countries and stuff. And I don't know how they got it.
Yeah.
Because I barely have like a copy of it. So I don't know, but this band Vendetta Symphony seemed to have done really well in the overseas kind of thing. And when you kind of look up the band, and I sometimes find articles and stuff, and they're always from overseas. So I don't know how that happened, but something good happened there, which I didn't make any money off. Yeah, I can buy my own album for like, what is it, 72 euro cents or whatever it is. I don't make it. I just saw the website. It was like a few months ago, and they're selling the album. And I'm like, who has this album? I own the fucking album. So then after that, I joined a band called Chair Like Issues, which was like a weird band. I don't even know what genre to put it in. And we played around a lot, but we didn't really play Sydney that often. The band would just travel, and I don't know, we'd play random play. For some reason we were in Albury like every couple of weeks. I don't know why. But I wasn't booking that band, so they were just like, oh, we need to be in Albury. Well, that's a 6-hour drive. What are we getting paid? Oh, nothing. Awesome. Can't wait to play them. We when we did do like certain shows, we did get some stuff. I can't remember. I remember like not having to pay for petrol and stuff all the time. So we must have been making some money. I don't know where it went. And after that, so Chair Like Issues, everything kind of, it was like a bit of a fallout. And then I stepped away for about 3 years. And from one of the guys in Chair Like Issues, we tried to start a band, but we were more just chilling in my bedroom playing music every weekend, and we were drinking. Like, so it was, and we'd have this thing where I even posted it once on YouTube where we would do this thing where we go around the world in beers, and we'd buy beers from different countries, and then like we're flying to the Czech Republic, so we're going to drink this beer, and more as we would drink, we'd get more smashed, and like, yeah, it's not good. And like, if people do look it up on YouTube, you won't be entertained, but it is there, so you can see it. But yeah, so we were like, we'd get together and write these songs, and then I started writing music for it on guitar, and I had ideas. And at that point, in my earlier bands, I'd always been a vocalist, and I played bass in one band. And I knew how to play guitar. I was just shit at it.
Yeah.
I still am. But for a very small period of time, and this was probably 2008, 2010, I knew how to play guitar. And I wrote songs.
Yeah.
So and I had an electric drum kit as well. So as we were chilling and writing some music, and then we started kind of getting a bunch of songs, and I was like, this would be kind of cool if we actually turn this into a band. So we started recruiting people, and I went back to one of the guys I used to be in the band with in Thoughts of Yesterday, and I asked him if he'd come along and be a part of it. And he didn't have a car at that time. So I was like, hey, I'll drive you to Prac, and then you don't need to worry about getting there. And I'm like, I know you don't have any money, and he's like an audio engineer and stuff, so he wasn't making any money. So kind of blackmailed him into being in the band, and yeah, it worked. he hasn't left, so so yeah, we did that. We started writing music, and then we kind of got like a crew together, and the songs that we started writing, and we had songs left over from other bands. So I'm gonna mess this up, but some of the songs on the CD we have is Shadows. Actually, Shadows might be the only one on that CD, on the album. That was originally written in 2004, and then it was on a CD we had in Thoughts of Yesterday, and then we re-released it under the NASJAP banner. But there's a few songs that were actually like other songs from over the years that we've adapted and changed into being whatever. So NASJAP kind of came around. One, I blackmailed a guitarist. The other one, we had nothing better to do. We found the drummer through a friend, and the bass player tried out one day, and we needed a bass player, so he was in. The name, though, we had like a whole bunch of names written down, and I don't know, some of the names were, one of them was like Anarchy Sky Jingles, and there was The Ensign Always Dies, which is a reference to Star Trek, and we had all these like names, and then on the paper there was, what's that name? So it was Not Another Prequel, Just Another Sequel, but there were two different names, and somehow we were like, oh, if we wanted to shorten this down, and it would be Napjas, and we're like, Napjas sounds stupid. So we thought NASJAP sounded better, which it doesn't. Now thinking about it, it's fucking stupid.
It still sounds better than Napjas.
Yeah, but Napjas could have been NASJAP, and you would have been stuck with Napjas. So it doesn't fucking matter. Oh god, the name is stupid. But so some people were like, "Oh, does the name come from you like horror movies and movies and different pop culture?" And I'm like, no, the name was written down. We changed it, and that's what we got. It's a long, obnoxious name, and people always go, they go, "What's your band name?" And I go, "Oh, not another sequel, just another prequel. And they go, what the fuck? And this is every single person. I go, oh, it's NASJAP for short. And they're like, that makes even less sense. And I really like it that way. I like the fact that people get confused really easily about the name, or they go, oh, so you're the sequel band, right? Yeah, we're the sequel band. A little cool story. We got booked in Queensland, and we got the run sheet for the gig. And we were like, okay, so there's 4 bands on the show, and there was band 1 down the bottom. I think we were headlining. And there was band 1 down the bottom, and then band 2, and then they were like, oh, NASJAP, and not another sequel, just another prequel. And we're like, I don't think they realize we're the same fucking band. So I gave them a call, and yeah, they had no idea. They're like, oh, we just got told that there was not another sequel, just another prequel, and NASJAP. And I'm like, it's one and the same. So,
Same band.
same band. But yeah, what I really dug about this band is I got to be stupid and with my lyrics, and I got to sing about things that really appeal to me. And I didn't care if they appealed to anybody else. And they somehow did. Because I realized that I like nostalgia, and so does other people, but people dig like the songs that we've written, things like Bill and Ted's most awesome epic voyage. And to me, people were like, oh, we really dig the Bill and Ted song because we love Bill and Ted. And I'm like, I love Bill and Ted. That's why I'm singing that song. And then I wrote a song. So one of the songs I'd actually pretty much wrote the whole thing is Halloween Falls on Friday the 13th while I was having a Nightmare on Elm Street, a good guy doll was delivered. And that's a mouthful and it's insane.
Yeah.
But that song it's all about how horror movies just make more money because they just become sequels or remakes or reboots. And it's kind of weird how the band, not another sequel, just another prequel, and how it all came about. The name had nothing to do with what I was singing about. This band could have been called anything, and we were still going to sing about the same things because the songs were already written. It just I think the name just kind of ended up working with what we sing about and what we wrote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the first time I ever heard of you guys or NASJAP was actually I was at a show and my mates were playing and the bass player was wearing a NASJAP t-shirt. The band was Red Bear, who I'll get into in a bit later. But Jim Silk was wearing a NASJAP shirt. And it was really cool design, and I can't actually remember which design it was.
Yep.
But it had the logo at the top. And I asked him, who is that band? And he explained it to me and explained what the songs were about. I was like, I have to check them out. And then I checked you guys out, and I was like, oh, I really like that. That is fucking awesome.
Oh, well, Jim, us and Red Bee, like when we started playing around more, Red Bee was one of the first bands that we would end up going kind of on tour with, or we'd play around. Like we'd both been playing. Not that we both started at the same time, but we both kind of came up together and played the same show. So every time that we were booked on a show, Red Bee were booked on a show, and we're like, "Who's Red Bee? Like, what the fuck's a Red Bee?" And they're probably thinking, what the fuck's a NASJAP? Like, so, and they were, because we've talked about this. And we've had some really good times with those guys. Where we're yelling at each other, merch wars, trying to outsell each other at shows. That was always cool.
I've always just been surprised by them. That a 3-piece band can bring out such an enormous sound.
Oh,
and
yes.
The fact that Dunny, the drummer Ian Dunn, the fact that he can play that whole show without dying, he's only a tiny little thing.
Yeah, he is. So we became really good friends with those guys over the years, and even when they released their, I think it was Ictus album, the one they had on the USB.
That was their first album?
That would be the first album, yep. But they released a version of it on USB.
Yeah, and I've got somewhere here.
They've got what do you call it? lessons on how to play their songs.
Yeah.
It was actually me and my guitarist that went in and videoed all that for them,
Oh,
did all
really?
that production. So because we were NASJAP, there's a lot. There's a lot, and I guess I'll explain a little bit of it because I started viewing NASJAP not as just a band, but as like a brand or a product. And it's kind of stupid because like I was like, okay, so we're gonna have our own clothing line, and that's why we had so many designs. So people started buying our shirts because they were like, holy shit, that looks so cool. And it didn't look like your normal band shirts.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what, so every time that we put our shirts on a table next to other bands, they all went, hey, where did you guys get your shirts? And I was like, hey, so you guys want to be a part of this? And then I'd start picking up business and getting bands involved and getting designs sorted and printing. And I had my own clothing label, which was called Speed Justice Clothing. And Speed Justice is also the record label. And there's this whole Speed Justice group of bands and stuff. It kind of went crazy for a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, NASJAP we tried to do something where, yeah, it wasn't just the band. We were trying to be this product as well. And I actually, I have a comic book of us somewhere that's never been released, and it was really cool. And the comic book is all about the song 8-Bit Superhero, and we got it. It's all drawn up. It's all done. There's just it never got finished because we never finished. We were trying to get the comic book, so we were going to sell it, and it was all going to have like ads, and like we're going to have some fake looking ads inside, and where comic books used to have things like, oh, if you get this, you can get your amazing sea monkey sent to you and shit, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I went a bit overboard, and with the design stuff, we tried to make sure that we always stood out. And that's one thing I think we did, regardless of whatever we did and what people thought of us. We always tried to make sure it didn't matter what show we were on, and who we were playing with. And we played some amazing shows with some like internationally regarded talent type of thing, right? And when we put our shirts and our merchandise on the table, we stood out, and people always went, "Oh wow, yeah, I want that." So I'm glad that our shirt being out there, and a shirt was what made you find us.
Yeah, pretty much.
So it worked.
It must have been a pretty good shirt because it would take a lot to distract me from a Red B concert.
Yeah.
And like all I could focus on the whole set was the shirt that Jim Silk was wearing. And I was like, oh fuck, they're finished. There you go.
That's cool.
They even played like Roadkill, and I was still like, oh, that shirt is fucking awesome.
Fucking Roadkill. Oh, fuck, they're amazing.
What
is it? There's a video out there somewhere of me announcing, what song is it? Red B did, and it might have been Angelo's School of Arms.
Yeah.
And they've got like...
That's the instrumental, isn't it?
That's it. And during one of the parts, he used to always be like, all right, we've got the slow part, and we've got the other slow part, and then so we got the soft part, and then we got the mildly distorted part, and then we've got the lose your shit part. And I used to we would hang out a lot, right? So I was always giving him shit about that, and one day he called me up and he's like, Ace, tell me, you tell them that. And I'm like, all right. And I was fucking hammered. And yeah, I don't know how I didn't trip getting up on stage, and you see it, I'm wasted. But yeah, there's a video out there of Red B live doing Angelo School of Arms. I'm there, and then halfway through I jump up, they get me to jump up on stage and help them announce the what is it, the the intro into the lose your shit part. So that was good times.
They're one of those bands, like I booked them in Bateman's Bay.
Yep.
And the little venue that I was running down here, and no one had ever heard of Red B. They actually replaced you guys, because I was supposed to. I tried to book you guys, and then something came up. I think one of your members left, and you had to pull out of the gig. But it would have been you guys, Aggression.
Yep.
A local band called Terravoris, and it might have actually even been Red B on the bill as well. So it would have been stacked. They drove from Katoomba to Bateman's Bay and back on the same night.
Oh, you know what? They are notorious for
For
doing
doing
that
that.
shit.
Yeah.
Oh man, they like so where I am, Red Bee are about like half an hour away from where I live,
Yeah.
right? Um, yeah, where? Yeah, about half an hour, 40 minutes max. And so we always, like I said, we're playing the same shows. We would go and do the run, but a lot of times we go find at least a hotel. No, not these guys. No,
Uh,
they
I
would travel there, travel back. Doesn't matter if they're headlining or playing first, and they don't leave. They don't leave the show either.
I remember a few years ago they were sporting Sidonia at the basement in Canberra. They
Yep.
drove from Katoomba to Canberra as soon as their set was finished. They stuck around for a bit, shook hands with the band, packed
Hmm.
the van at the end of the gig, and then just drove home.
Yep,
I'm like,
that's Red
what the
Bee.
hell? I'm
Yeah,
like, I couldn't do that. I'm like, and it was a 2-seater van, and Dunny was like
he's
stuck
in
in the
the middle.
middle.
Yeah, yeah, I know. This is just the images in my head because we dealt with that all the time.
Yeah.
Uh, they are the best. They are the best. I haven't I've seen what they've been doing recently,
Yeah.
um, which is good. But for me, last time I even spoke to them, I just gave them. I like your old shit better than your new shit.
Or the second album, It Grew on Me, Dead Inside is like one of my favorite songs
Yep.
now.
I'm
But
gonna say their new
they
stuff's amazing. I just like to give them shit.
there when they came down, no one in Bateman's Way knew who the fuck Red Bee was
Yep.
at all. Didn't know who they were, and I packed one up with Terrorvirus, are kind of a deathcore death metal band.
Yep.
I put a hardcore, like a real hardcore punk band, not like screams, but like
Yep.
actual like 70s hardcore. Called Brown Paper Bag from Nara. And I put someone else in there. I can't remember who it was. And Red Bee headlined, who were this 3-piece prog band that no one had ever heard of.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
at the start of their set, it had me and maybe 2 other people in the front row. And me being in a wheelchair, people thought, oh, I can't come to the front and crowd the guy in the wheelchair. By the end of their third song, it was a 200-person venue. I had 190 people packing it out, and maybe 85% of them were in the pit around me. And by the
Yeah.
end of the set, literally 100% of the people were at the stage because they ended on Angelo's, I think, on the instrumental.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that was. I would expect that. That's a good song to go out on as well.
It is. And the
Really good
crowd were
song.
going fucking mental. And like the first thing said to me after the set was, please bring them back. And
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
cool.
fucking hell. First time they ever played in Bateman's Bay, no one had ever heard of them. By the end of the set, I had 190 people begging me to bring them back.
And that's because they are unbelievable. Like that. This is we. There's a video out there of me complaining about playing after Red Bee, right? And we're headlining, and we're like, I'm sick to death of playing after Red Bee and getting outplayed by them.
Yeah. It's always that unenviable spot where you're like, really? You're putting Red Bee on first. Why the hell would you do that? Not for the crowd, for the other bands. Why would you do that? It's so cruel.
I do miss, honestly, I do miss hanging out with those guys, but playing shows, just the amount of time we spent together, and it's really weird. Like, what did somebody describe Red Bee to me once? They're like, what did they say? They're metal frenzel rom, and I'm like, okay, yeah, all right, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
And he has such a unique voice, and
He does. I asked him a while ago, I'm like, do you hate it when bands like sing in an American accent when they're Australian? He goes, a little bit, but like, I'm Australian, so I'm going to sing in an Australian accent.
I don't, man, he is unbelievable. Like the first time we ever seen them, they blew me away. It was in Newcastle the first time we ever seen them, and and randomly, so we don't know who these guys are, and anyway we start playing. We've also been told that you guys, because Naschap, I use a vocal pedal, right? So because like we can't afford to have a sound guy all the time, and half the sound guys won't let your guy touch the bloody gear anyway.
Yeah.
So I can't have somebody doing live effects. So I was like, okay, I'll get this pedal. I'll run my effects through it. So at least we sound more professional and whatever. Plus, with the song "What Is Love," I need the auto tune because and people in like that don't get the joke. They're like, we're a metal band that does not take ourselves seriously at all. And yeah, I'm gonna be T-Pain on stage and use a auto tune for "What Is Love" because it sounds stupid, and that makes me laugh. And we've had bands, and I've heard this through my friends in other bands, and they're like, they hate your band because you sing with a pedal, and I'm like, do they not get the joke? Like everybody else in the crowd that's singing along gets the joke, but like some people are just so I'm so metal and I cannot listen to anything but death metal and anything besides death metal. No, I fucking hate it, and I'm not one of those people. This band, Nasjab Genre Hops, um, we I can do like the dirtiest death screams and then I can sound kind of pretty sometimes.
Yeah.
So and there was and I like to have fun
Yeah.
as well. So the band Red Bee, I'm on stage, and just before we get up, I've got told that be really careful. The Newcastle crowd, yeah, they're not a fan of you, and I'm like, we haven't played here before. How do you mean they're not a fan of us? Well, they might throw bottles at you, and I'm like, we ain't fucking playing then. And they're like, no, you'll be fine. I'm like, you just told me they're going to throw bottles at us. Like, we're not fine. We're the opposite of fine right now.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, just go out and play. So anyway, we started playing, and it was perfectly fine, as it was going to be anyway. But yeah, Jim from Red Bee went and grabbed a chair and gave me a chair because it was my throne because I was above him, and I was like to these guys, I'm like, you guys were unbelievable, like you guys were unbelievable. So we were both sucking each other off for a while. It was yeah, it was quite good, but yeah, man, I'm just glad we brought up memories of Red Bee, man. Like it's been a while since I've even sat down with all the members of the band and we went through stuff for a while because we did release a song 2019, so October for Halloween, and we did a Ghostbusters cover. And what people don't know about the Ghostbusters cover is that was actually recorded years before. And what we used to do is every time we were at a venue with bands or they were recording or they're at a prac studio, we used to go down and get them to do Ghostbusters. So
Okay.
on the actual Ghostbusters bit, you have bands like I don't know, Tensions Arise and there was a shitload of bands on this, and I don't think I know we got footage of it, but we just used to get people to be like, oh, we got this Ghostbusters song, can you guys just say Ghostbusters, and we'll put it in. And that was probably recorded in 2013, 2014, and it finally got released in 2019.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we were still like, there's still a few of us that I haven't right now. Like with the pandemic and everything, we didn't bother doing anything or even trying to get anything band related going. I went through some old songs and we tried to see what we can release, but yeah, we just we kind of the two other guys that went off into another band at the moment. I think it's called Artemis Blade. So they're so my guitarist Adric and my drummer Aaron. I believe they're in that at the moment. And I caught up with the guys like a couple of weeks ago, but I didn't really ask them what was happening with the band situation, like what they were doing. So I think those guys have moved off into that band. So I'm guessing they're gonna. I think it's Artemis Blade will eventually start doing shows. But I did hear that I did get the recordings because I believe it's getting done with Adric, who is our like audio guy and guitarist, and he does everything. So he showed me some stuff, and it sounded pretty cool. But,
that's
I
awesome.
just went off on a total tangent.
That's all good, man. Yeah, I'm used to tangents on this show. Anywhere that's listened to the previous episodes, they know what tangents are all about. But yeah, because like Red Bee, I have to say, probably my favorite Australian band of all time. Like, the most killer gigs I've ever gotten to see are Red Bee and King Parrot. Two,
Mm.
two total, as far as metal goes, on the opposite ends of the metal spectrum. One's
Mm-hmm.
clean and melodic and very proggy and mathematical, and the other one's just fuck off kind of thing.
Yes.
But them playing together, it's like literally your head explodes from all the awesomeness. It's
Yep.
just so cool. I haven't gotten to see them play with you guys yet. I
Yep.
want to. I really do want to. But
It might happen again one day.
the first time I saw them was in Orange. Actually, I got to see them at a festival that I helped organize, Freshly Plucked. But I didn't have anything to do with the actual signing of the bands or anything
Yep.
for the lineup. I was the admin officer, so I did all the got all the posters, the ticketing, the site maps, all that organized for it. But they were playing there, and it was the first time I saw them back in 06, I think it was, and no 07, and they actually played with Franzel Rom on that show, and
Okay.
Mammal, and Unpaid Debt, and Blue
Oh,
Juice.
yeah.
There's
Hey.
a bunch of others. But yeah, it was
There we
fucking
go.
awesome.
That's cool.
But I remember the year before I heard that we had Carnival headlining the year before that. And I heard about this prog band coming out of Katoomba that Dunny was part of. It was actually Dunny's other band, his first band, The Rocks. They were on
Okay.
that bill. And they're more of a punk band. Because I
Okay.
didn't know Dunny could actually drum like that. Because he was just doing simple punk rhythms the entire
Yeah.
time I knew him. And then
He is unreal.
pretty much found out that he's one of the best drummers that I've ever known.
Okay, I'm a very simple dude when it comes to music, right? And my timings, and then you have Danny, and I'm like, yep. So, yep, I don't understand what you're playing.
So, yeah, the Australian scene is looking fucking phenomenal at the moment. I mean, like, you got you guys doing your stuff, you got Red Bee doing their stuff, you got King Parrot, you got all these bands representing the industry at the moment. It's looking fucking awesome.
I'm just so glad bands are allowed to play again.
Yeah.
Because that was honestly there's just there was such a big gap, obviously, and it had to happen, but you could see bands were itching because like bands like to play live. There's obviously a lot of bands that like to be stuck in a room and create music and whatever, but bands, they need that live energy, and it is the I did see when it was a couple of months ago anyway, and like all the gig posters started popping back up,
Yeah.
and I was like, yeah, here we go, we're back.
It's gonna be fucking awesome. Like even in America, like at the moment, you've got all these big festivals announcing their lineups. 9 Inch Nails and Metallica are pretty much headlining every single one of them. But one of the names that stuck out for me is a band that I've been praying for reformation. I don't even follow a religion, but I've been begging for a reunion. That's Mudvayne. They're finally going to reunite, supporting Metallica at one of these big mega festivals. But who would you want to see reunite or reform?
Oh, that is you know, this is gonna sound a bit weird, right? But and I might have a few bands that I want to reform, but I'm just gonna say I love Killswitch Engage, right?
Yeah.
But I love Killswitch Engage with Howard.
Yeah, same. I don't mind the Jesse stuff, but Howard was Killswitch.
I have Killswitch Engage, a fucking tape, that tape from '99, Killswitch Engage, right? I've been into Killswitch Engage since then, right? It was a cassette. It's got them on it. It's a not a demo, but it's like it's better than a demo, whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
But for me, Howard is the man. I love the presence that Howard creates. I love Howard live on stage. I want to see, and then I know every now and again Howard comes on stage and they do some stuff, and that is cool. I love nostalgia. But for me, I just wish more rather than reform, but just there was 2 kill switch engages, one
Yeah.
with Jesse and one with Howard. A band that I want to see should reform. There's a few that have kind of broken up over the years. Actually, this is really random. Another band. There was a band called Blessed by a Broken Heart. They were, I don't know what you would call them, what their genre is. But they're a band that they broke up a few years ago. Yeah, they're called Blessed by a Broken Heart. I think they had 2 or 3 CDs, and yeah, I wish they would get back together because they were one of the coolest bands. I don't even know if they're metal or what they were. They were kind of cool, and maybe that's it. Maybe that's it.
It's kind of hard to judge because, like you said, all the bands that I wanted to reform, and I was actually kind of disappointed when, well, the main band that I wanted to reform, Mammal, when they did reform, I was disappointed because the music wasn't that great anymore.
Yep.
But I wanted to see Butterfingers reform. They did. They haven't disappointed, but the music hasn't been as good as it was. I wanted to see other bands reform. Mudvayne already did that, sons of bitches. I've seen Black Sabbath a few times, but I really, 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 before any of them pass on, I want to see the original lineup. Because every time I went to see him, either Geezer wasn't there or Bill Ward wasn't there.
Yeah,
it was always Tony and Ozzy at the front, but I've always wanted to see the other two just so I can say I've seen the original lineup.
Yeah,
that will
that'd be
never
really
happen.
cool. Yeah, that's right. That would be cool though.
One band that I would really enjoy seeing live is White Zombie.
Oh, okay. You know that would be cool.
Yeah, because Rob's doing his thing, and I don't think they have exactly a amicable relationship with one another. But I would love to see White Zombie reform and just do World Tour. They're not big enough to headline like download by themselves, but they're big enough to like do a sellout tour.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah,
You got me. You reform. I just keep thinking, and I'm like, there's so many bands, and then I can't. Problem is, some bands. It's not that they haven't reformed. They just you don't know whether they're even still doing stuff.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, actually, Murder Dolls. Okay, so Murder Dolls are one of my all-time favorite bands. I follow them around. So that's another band. Their first CD I thought was really cool. I have like all the Frankenstein drag queens from Planet 13. Got all the stuff of that, and I was a big fan. Like when the minute Murder Dolls hit, I was like, it was the kind of same when I talked about the wrestling stuff. I would sit there and I'd be like, I have to know the ins and outs of everything. Yeah. Where did Wednesday start? You know, everything. So Murder Dolls would be one that I'd love to see reformed, even though when they reformed and they did that next album, I thought it was shit. But I'd still like to see that.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, so I did. Yeah.
Well, I had Wednesday 13 on my old podcast, and I got to talking about Joey Jordison, and pretty much he said after the last show of the Murder Dolls Reform Tour, or whatever it was called, where they reunited, Joey Jordison just stopped talking to everyone in the band, and Wednesday was like, I haven't seen him or spoken to him in about 2 years.
Oh, shit. Oh, okay, well, there you go. Well, that's not happening.
So it could happen. It's just you got to get Joey somehow.
Yeah.
And Corey Taylor has said in other interviews he's the same. Since he left Slipknot or was kicked out, whoever you believe on that one, I'm kind of neutral because when it comes to bands that size, I don't believe anything put out by the media, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's he said, she said kind of thing. Or he said. But Corey Taylor said the same thing. I haven't talked to Joey in ages. He won't reply to any emails, texts, calls. If we turn up at his house and knock on the door, there won't be an answer. Kind of thing. He just ignores everyone.
It's just sad that it's got to that. That's weird. And I guess we don't know what's going on. So
Yeah. It could be like mental issues going on in Joey's head, or it could be those dudes are just absolute pricks behind closed doors, or it could be Joey is an absolute prick behind the closed doors. We don't know.
it could be.
We don't know.
It definitely could be.
But if Joey Jordison was ever going to go into another profession, I would say it would have to be ice hockey, because that forehead could stop any goal trying to get through.
Very good.
Oh god! Someone said to me, "It can't be that big." I'm like, "He doesn't have a 5 head. He has a 6 head." I'm like, seriously, look up the photos. Corey Taylor made a joke that they had to get his mask extended just so it could fit on his head.
I love it.
He's still a great drummer.
Yeah.
And Joey, if you somehow hear this, I say this out of respect, because you're better than I could ever imagine being.
I love it. You got me. Oh, that's good.
But yeah, for me, White Zombie is my choice.
Now that'd be cool. That's you know what? I used to really dig White Zombie.
Yeah, and I dig a lot of Rob's stuff. His newer stuff is Take It or Leave It. His earlier stuff up to like Educated Horses, maybe Hellbilly Deluxe 2 was fucking awesome, but all of White Zombie stuff I loved.
I haven't heard White Zombie been mentioned in years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just took me back a bit. I was like, oh, yeah, White Zombie.
I think it would just be awesome. The presentation of it would be awesome, especially now they've got more money behind them, if you know what I mean. Like, they had money behind them in the 80s and 90s when they were around, but now Rob is a millionaire. So, like, they've got all that money behind them.
Yeah, they could push on that, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Alrighty, so that brings us to the end of the show, pretty much. It's been a long conversation.
Yeah. But
I didn't mind. I had fun. I hope you had fun as well.
Yeah, no, I could have kept talking about more and more, but yeah, you gotta stop somewhere, right?
Yeah. And I'll probably hit you up at some point for a second show.
That'd be awesome. I'd love to do that.
And we'll talk about some other stuff. Maybe even expand on the wrestling and music side of things. But like
you get me started talking on movies, and then how many hours?
Yeah. I got into an argument with my last guest, so it was more of a debate than an argument, but yeah, about 1994 in film. I think it is the greatest year in film history, and he thinks it's not.
Okay, so 94. Very Jim Carrey-esque.
Yeah, it had 3 Jim Carrey hits.
Yeah.
It had Forrest Gump, it had Shawshank Redemption, it had Pulp Fiction, it had Speed.
Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, I love Forrest Gump. I just ordered myself 2 Forrest Gump hats. I'm not even fucking joking.
The Bubba Gump Shrimp Company? Yeah.
yeah. I'm fucking that sad. I love it. 94 was good.
Yeah.
94 was good.
That's what I'm saying. Plus the 3 Jim Carrey movies, but The Mask, Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls. No, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah. See, Jim Carrey at that point was unstoppable.
Yeah. And I'm like, you can't really repeat that ever again. And yes, but it was better than anything that ever came before it, and it was better than anything since. Like, and then he said, you've got to look at the bottom of the barrel, which was like the Flintstones movie, which still was a pretty good movie.
I love that movie.
Eh,
Yeah,
And
no, I love that movie.
the Page Master with Macaulay Culkin, and I'm like, that thing is
I
fucking
remember.
iconic, man. I love
I
that
remember that.
film.
Yeah.
And True Lies as well.
Oh,
We got
True
into an
Lies. Yeah.
argument over whether that should be an iconic film or not. I'm
It is
like,
an
yeah,
iconic film.
yeah, exactly. That's what I said. But
It's True fucking Lies. There's another movie. This is just like me. It's just on me. Last Action Hero.
yeah,
That fucking movie, I think, is amazing, and I think it gets lost, and people just don't remember it and whatever. That Last Action Hero was amazing, and when the scene I love in it is in the video store.
oh,
Um,
the when he sees the Terminator.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it's Stallone, and you're like, you know what? That's almost it could have been. It's like
yeah.
one of those things. It could have been. Yeah.
It's we actually got into the conversation. The Last Action Hero is in my top 5 Arnie movies of all time.
Oh, there you go. Man, so we need to talk about movies at some point. You'll need to bring me back.
Yeah, exactly. And when it comes to movies, I've always said I'm a jack of all trades and a master of some.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
there are some that where I can just overpower people and just talk forever on those subjects. But yeah, movies are one thing that I enjoy more than anything. Like
Mhm.
because you can just sit down and you can't not enjoy the fact that you're sitting down to watch a movie
That's it.
or going to the movies. Going to the movies is an experience on its own.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I dig that, but you got to pick the right movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If it's a bad movie, it's a bad movie.
Oh, yeah, and you will. Yeah. Why did I pay for that?
Yeah, exactly. It's been worse this year and last year because the whole COVID thing. Nothing but crap came out,
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
and I was like, "Oh my god, why did I go? Why did I pay money to see this at movies? Oh my god!" But yeah, so yeah, we'll have to get you back on for another show. But this farewell has been going on for about 10 minutes.
Yes.
Oh, I'm enjoying this. We could have literally just started another show right here, right now.
It could have happened.
So, I'm Tom Roberts, and this is Acey Brimshore.
Yep, that's me.
I'm saying goodbye to everyone out there in podcast land. Hope you've enjoyed the Before It Was Cool podcast. Hit us up on Facebook, facebook.com/the Before It Was Cool podcast, all one word. I know it's very long. Or email us beforeiwc@gmail.com. Or hit me up on Twitter at Tom_Dom89. It's TOM_DOM89. Or, yeah, generally like, share, comment. Tell your friends to listen to the podcast. It's friggin' awesome. Do you have any social medias that you want to plug? Like anything for NASJAP or yourself or anything?
You can find NASJAP on Facebook. Just type in NASJAP. You'll find us somewhere. For myself, I'm on Facebook, Twitters, Grindr, Bumblebee. Yeah, you can. I'm out there in places. So you just look up Acey Brimshore, you'll find me. If you look on YouTube, you'll find stuff from the band. You'll find stuff from my wrestling days. You'll even find me on a game show when I was younger. You can go watch me in the movie Wormwood. I'm in there somewhere. Yeah, that's about it.
That's awesome. What game show?
It was it was a game show on Fox Kids called Super Six, and it had I can't remember, but anyway, most of the show had Vulcan as like the referee, but we ended up getting Bruce Bolton from the Sydney Kings, basketball player, as the referee. Colin McCrae, I can't remember the host, but he used to do like a lot of stuff. Anyway, the show was trash, and yeah, somehow our school got picked to be in it, and if you watch closely, you'll see me cheating. and they catch me out on it. So
Oh, that's awesome. Alrighty then. So goodbye to everyone, and we'll see you later. Or talk
thanks
to you
everyone.
later.
Have a good one.